Hello and welcome to PM Express. My name is Nana Ansakwa IV, and today I'm very privileged to be sat in the only general's office, and I'll tell you what I'm talking about. Now, I'm here face to face, first time ever with General Mosquito, Asiedu Enketia, and we're here to talk about the NDC, Ghana politics in general, and matters arising. And I'm sure, even though we have an hour, we will try our best. It's not going to be enough, so I've been asked for apologies before the show even starts. But Mr. Asiedu, thank you very much for honoring this, inviting us to your office.
You're welcome.
Now, thank you. I just want to start with, will we ever get to a time where election will not be a matter of life and death, that people will just wake up in the morning, cast their votes, and just go back to work, don't need to sit and wait by the ballot box and see what will happen? I mean, would we ever get there?
Surely, I think we will get there. And that has always been my prayer, that elections should be seen as decision-making, a decision-making time for citizens of a country. And it should not be a time for war or a time for conflict. But there are reasons why in Africa, and indeed in Ghana, our elections are characterized by emotions and those type of things. The reason being that because we are growing as a country, we've not been able to establish institutions that will make sure that opportunities in the country are evenly distributed, irrespective of the political party of each citizen. And by the time we are able to get strong institutions to ensure that it doesn't matter which political party you belong to, you will be treated equally before the law, you would have the same opportunity to access employment, access contracts, and other things, then election time will not be a time of conflict. People will not worry whatever government is in power. But as at now, because of the belief that once you are in power, then everything should inure to your benefit, and those who are not in power are in for trouble for the tenure of 4 years and so on. You see that people will look at election time as a matter of life and death. If I don't win, then I'll be in trouble for the next 4 years. If I win, then I'll be better placed for the next 4 years. That is why when we are talking about this winner takes all, I don't see winner takes all or the lack of it as relating to political appointments or putting people in positions. If you are talking about the evils of winner takes all, the evils of winner takes all express themselves in the lack of fair opportunities for the citizens. So we should, instead of concentrating on getting something that you call a union government, where when the president takes office, he must reach out to bring members of other political parties for appointment. I don't think that is our problem. Our problem is that we should establish institutions and make sure that opportunities in the system are evenly shared. And then people progress on merit. If the system rewards merit, that will indicate that there is no winner takes all. But so long as the system will reward people who belong to a particular political party, then you will see that winner takes all is evident.
General, through no fault of yours, I mean, like now you're running a campaign, and I know it must cost an arm and a leg. There's no way somebody like Apia can walk to your office today and say, General, there's 2 million, help your campaign. Or a very known, maybe Alan Chairman coming to your office to say, well, General, there's 5 million to help you. So people who come and do this are generally sympathizers of your party. Yeah. So after you've won power, it would be unfair to bypass the businessman who came to help you. You don't call up PM and say, well, you are across the divide. I have a contract here. Come and take it. So the system itself wouldn't make us, will make it difficult for you to reach out and help others who are not in your camp.
Well, if we have strong institutions, you can have answers to this. Because people, it will not be wrong for corporate institutions to donate to your campaign or individuals to donate to your campaign. But the motive behind the donation is what matters. In a mature democracy, business people will know that if you don't have political stability, business cannot grow. Mm-hmm. So people will invest in political stability. So whatever it takes to ensure that the system is stable and there is no disruption, there is no threat of war, and so on. So they will be donating not because they are expecting to be treated, you know, unfairly above other contestants, but they are interested in the political stability of the system. So people like that can donate. They may not belong to a particular political party. They may not be sympathetic to any political party, but they may be able to donate. And then there ought to be accountability. If people, if there are strong institutions that will ensure accountability, then accountability will cover accountability of donations and what use you put the donations to. I think when we get there, people who want to donate will not necessarily be expecting to be treated above the other, you know, citizens in the country.
General, unless you cap, let's say, institutional donations to not more than maybe 5,000 cedis, and maybe personal donations to not more than 1,000 cedis. But if I was a big company and I walked in here and I gave you 5 million, yeah. I've compromised you, even if I had no motive behind it. I mean, for that amount, if in future you were going to make a policy that may go against me, you might think twice because of the amount of money I brought in. Should there be then a cap to say, look, individuals can't give more than 1,000, institutions can't give more than 5,000, so we stay, you know, so that you don't compromise yourself, you know.
No, again, it goes to the same institutional building that I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. If there are institutions that will make sure that irrespective of whatever you donate, if a contract is going to be awarded, there are strong institutions to ensure fairness in the award of contract, you would come to realize, or the donor will come to realize that irrespective of whatever he donates, he cannot compromise the system for awarding of contracts to his or her benefit. So that is one of it. And then secondly, because there is transparency, you cannot go to donate to anybody's campaign in America to the tune of 5,000 and expect that nobody hears about it. So the moment people know that this institution has donated so much to this campaign, they will also be monitoring in what way would there be any attempt to reward you know, the donor. And if there are strong institutions, you would not have any opportunity to be able to, if you like, kick back. And so next time, if you are donating and it is not out of, you know, corporate good citizenship that you are donating and you are expecting something else, you will not go in because you put in something and you didn't get anything back. So next time, if you are going to donate, you check yourself.
20 years and counting. And I mean, if there hasn't been a significant change after 20 years, should we go back to the drawing table, or should we keep trying our luck to say that one day it will work?
20 years in democracy building is a very short time. When you look at mature democracies, some are 200 years, some are above, and so on. And I want to believe that where we have reached, maybe those pace setters did not reach where we are in their first 20 years. So we have an advantage of, if you like, learning from others and not repeating their mistakes. So we are put in a position where we can fast track our development. That is why we have reached where we have reached. So I still believe that we have made some commendable progress. And so we should not be disappointed. We should not be too hard on ourselves. The others will come as we move along. The amount of transparency that you have now, the amount of accountability that civil society is demanding, the press is demanding, and so on, it wasn't like that in '92. So gradually, we'll make progress. And then if we are all committed towards building a democracy, we will be there surely.
Then what you see, those democracies that are 200-300 years ago probably had to play by ear and dance, as the drummers were drumming. We have the opportunity of studying that, they went wrong here, they went wrong there. Should we go through the same trials and tribulations under the excuse that they are 300 years old? Should we cut a short corner? Say, oh, well, they got it wrong this way, we're not going to go that path.
That's the point I've been making. I'm saying that where we have reached now, we've reached there because we've learned lessons from the mature democracy. So we didn't need to repeat some of the things that they went through. But in other cases too, it is very, very natural that you have to go through the same process so that you can learn the lessons, and the lessons will be inbuilt in the democracy. It is out of those experiences that society as a whole would want not to repeat those things. But there are others like ensuring transparent elections and so on. We have come very, very far in this very short period. But there are areas too where it takes collective experience in society for members of society to believe that, well, because of this past experience, we think that war is not good, we think that dictatorship is not good, we think that even democracy is not a perfect system, but there is no better alternative, so let us stay on course. So, so that is my view about our development towards democracy. It is painfully slow, it is painfully expensive, and so on, but there is no better alternative. In some cases, it gets worse before it begins getting better. It's all lesson that we have to learn as a society.
Before I move on to the upcoming elections, can we make it a bit cheaper? Is it not too, can we afford it? Because at the moment, it's like we are borrowing to run this democracy. So we are constantly in debt so that we can run this democracy. Can we make it a bit cheaper? And how?
Well, it takes collective thinking to make democracy cheaper. I am also equally worried that if the way even electioneering, elections and other things are getting expensive, it is worrisome, because democracy is a precondition for us to develop. But everybody knows that you don't eat democracy. So if we have to divert resources from productive sectors into ensuring that you have a good democracy, I think that then it will not augur well for us. Even though it can be argued that once there is good democracy, you are likely to get good leaders who are likely to be able to generate good policies, to be able to be innovative, and then be able to fast track the growth process. The fact still remains that you do not have to put the bulk of your resources in just institutional building to the neglect of investing in productive sectors that will generate jobs and so on. Because as we move along, you can have the best democracy. If you cannot provide jobs for the youth, you are sitting on a time bomb and it can explode. And then all the gains you've made in democracy, in other things, will go down the drain. So there must be a good balance.
Stay tuned. We are coming right back, and then we'll look at the elections gone past. What does the general think about it if he was going to grade it? Is it business as usual, or there are some boxes that need to be checked? Stay tuned. Thank you very much for staying tuned. We're here with Mr. Johnson Asiedu Nketia, General Secretary of the NDC, the ruling party, if I may say. So this guy is the organ grinder. You know, in traditional settings, he's the Busiapenyi. The president happens to be the chief, but he's the Busiapenyi. So when it is not national matters, he is the boss. And then when it comes to national matters, the chief then takes over. And that's how the settings is traditionally. So he's a big man I'm talking to here. General, your last elections, the hoo-ha that went on with regards to taking a national youth organizer.
Yeah.
What's your general comment on that?
Well, thank you very much. Unfortunately, I wasn't present at the elections myself. Mm-hmm. The reason being that we always have the youth wing elections and the women's wing elections taking place at the same time, albeit different venues. Mm-hmm. The last, during the last term, 2010, I attended the Youth Congress that was held in Kumasi. So I wasn't present in the Winneba Congress. So this time around, it was only natural that I chose to attend the Women's Congress, and then some people attended the Youth Congress. So the reports I have are secondary reports. So I wasn't there myself. All those reports indicated that there was some amount of disruptions at the elections at the time of collation and of the results, and I want to condemn that because it is not a good practice to express disagreement through disruptions of that nature. Democracy is a system where anything you disagree with, there is a peaceful process of addressing it. But having said that, I want to also add that we consciously crafted a system where the youth meet to decide on their own affairs, decide on their leadership. So the youth wing is a learning place for future leaders. And so you expect that they will, once in a while, they will be making mistakes. So you cannot learn without making mistakes. So I will not hold it that hard against them. I think that they will learn from whatever mistakes that they committed. Because Gandhi said that if freedom doesn't include freedom to make mistakes, then freedom is worthless. So they must have the freedom, now that they are learning, they must have the freedom to make a few mistakes, and we'll be correcting them. But the summary of the report I had from the chairman of the electoral committee, Honorable Kendrasan, was that everything proceeded peacefully up to counting. Counting was done. It was at the point of collation that the agent of one of the candidates actually requested for a recount. And there are conflicting reports as to whether the recount was granted by the electoral commission or not granted by the electoral commission. Some accounts indicated that the request was granted. Others indicated that the request was not granted and was referred to our electoral committee. Be that as it may, the other side also opposed the request for recount, and that was where there was a point of conflict. So as at...
before you continue, could it be that the youth are learning from the adults? And because the story says, Baba Jamal stepped in and said that, the first count was fair and that there shouldn't be a recount, infuriating the crowd to say that, hold on, who are you to determine whether the EC recounts or not? And that's what the agitation started.
Well, the report I am holding hasn't mentioned Baba Jamal. But whatever be the case, at that level, it was the electoral commission that was in charge. The party assigns the duty of conducting these elections to our electoral committee. And so they invited the electoral commission and gave them the technical process of conducting election, that segment to the Electoral Commission. So until Electoral Commission concludes their work, nobody intervenes. So I would not, whether that is true or not true, I would not put the blame on individuals. I would want to find out whether Electoral Commission actually concluded the elections, and if so, what their decision was. Because the laws allow people who disagree with the results to question the decision of Electoral Commission. So if there is no decision, then even protests cannot be entertained, petitions cannot be entertained, because any petition must be directed as questioning the decision of the Electoral Commission. So we cannot allow the Electoral Commission to escape without announcing a decision. If they are involved in an election, they may come out in this type of situation, they may come out to say that, well, because of the disruptions, we believe that the elections have been compromised, so they can never be genuinely true, free and fair. So we call for an annulment. Then it is a decision of Electoral Commission. Then anybody who is dissatisfied, who thinks that the elections were free and fair, can then petition against that decision. Or else Electoral Commission can declare that, well, we consider that these elections were free and fair. We recognize that there were these disruptions, but these disruptions did not significantly affect the quality of the elections. So therefore, we hereby declare so and so the winner and so the loser. Then anybody who is dissatisfied with that result would also petition against that decision. So whatever be the case, the decision must come from Electoral Commission. And I'm being told that this afternoon the Electoral Commission actually has pronounced on the elections. I was informed by the chairman of our Electoral Committee, and I said that I want to see the basis. I want to see the results, signed results that will be brought here, so that anybody who petitions, we can then compare the petition with the results and then make headway.
What was the decision that Abigail lost or Abigail won? What was the petition? What did they declare?
I have not been told about. I've just been told that the results has been announced. Okay. And I haven't heard the announcement myself. And I can only take my information from the Electoral Committee. Okay. So I requested from them whether they have been given copies of the results. And they said the Electoral Commission says they were sending it directly to us. And I asked them to demand the results, because we are not dealing directly with Electoral Commission. We are dealing with our Electoral Committee. So if they have results to deliver, they should deliver them to the committee. The committee chairman should then add it to his report, because he has submitted some interim report without the results. So he should add it, so that any petition that will come, I will then be in a position to refer the petition with copies of the report to the appropriate committee to look at.
I want to stay with the youth, get out of the parties and politics and go into like the SRCs. And the main culprit, if I may use that word, is either the MPP or the NDC. You know, when they are electing their SRCs, you know, the stories of monies from both parties, you know, getting in there. And it's all in the negative. So, I mean, are we sort of catching them too young and, you know, prepping them in the wrong kind of politics too early?
I don't think that recruiting party members in tertiary institutions is an activity that is too early in life for anybody. Because from tertiary institutions, you are prepared for maturity, you come out and you enter the world of work. So at the level of secondary school, yes, but at the level of tertiary, I think that students should have the opportunity to participate in multi-party. But I also hear stories about monies and other things during student elections. And indeed, this our youth election, I'm hearing the same stories. The difficulty in Ghana is that nobody is prepared to testify. But everybody talks about use of money. Use of money in elections to influence people to vote in a particular direction is one of the most reprehensible acts that can be committed in a democracy. And I would any day not support anything like that. And indeed, I'll be on the watch out. If I have evidence of anything like that, I would want to pursue it, to get to the bottom. Indeed, this morning I went to the office of our chief of staff, because the type of stories that were coming and the wild allegations that were being made, people were talking about the office of the chief of staff entering into these youth elections and compromising people. I said, if you talk about office of chief of staff, office building cannot act. So there must be human beings there, and there must be a head. So I'm just from the office of the chief of staff. When I told him about some of the allegations that are being peddled about him and his office, he was shocked. Because he didn't know anything about it. He didn't even hear that anybody is peddling such rumors about his office. And yet, people keep talking. So I'm saying that those who think like me and believe that we must rid our politics with this monetization and other things, they must also be prepared to sacrifice a little by coming out boldly and then maybe making available whatever information they have, which will give us leads to be able to pursue some of these things. But I would say that any day I will condemn any act of monetization, either in NDC, in MPP, or student wing, or any election, because it is morally reprehensible for anybody to want to influence the decision of another person with money or any material gift.
General, even I can give you any evidence or any names, but you're more an experienced politician than I am, and I believe you're not saying that it doesn't happen.
No, I'm not saying that is not what I'm saying, because look, the reason why some of us are worried is that I think some 8 months ago there was some Transparency International report or something that indicted political parties as one of the most corrupt institutions we had in Ghana. The four general secretaries of the 4 leading political parties organized a press conference to condemn that report. Indeed, we studied that and questioned the authors of that report. All that they were referring to as their justification was that these are perceptions. They interviewed people, and then people were referring to gifts and monies and other things that are exchanged during political party primaries and internal elections and so on. So these were the things they put together. And we said, well, do they have any evidence of anybody exchanging money? But unfortunately, if money is indeed being exchanged, it will be in secrecy. So it will be difficult to track. So if you are able to track, then the answer is prosecution. If you are not able to track, you don't sweep it under the carpet. The answer is preaching against it and condemning it. And maybe that will help to rid our politics of this type of perception. So I am not in a position to say that it happened or it didn't happen. But whatever be the case, if it didn't happen, then still people should know that we will condemn it when we see it happening. If it indeed happened, but then we are not able to get the evidence, then let those people be cautioned that, in fact, if we get them, we will not spare anybody.
Stay tuned. When we come back, we're going to find out, since you and I are not going to bring any evidence, where's all these perceptions flying from? Don't move. Well, thank you very much for staying. And yes, I mean, as soon as you mention the word politician, subliminally you just think, he's a corrupt person. Sometimes when you say businessman, you think, he's a crook. We've been sort of oriented that way, whether we like it or not, and therefore we tag politics and politicians and everything to do with corruption. And I think they are living to pay the price. And I keep saying that political parties and politicians need to do deliberate PR to change their image in society. But General, I mean, could it be that like political parties, after a whole campaign, sometimes declare the cost of their campaign and say, oh, we used, 10,000 CDs, or they declare the revenue, and everyone knows that clearly this must cost more than that. So if the political parties are doing that, and then you take both sides of the house, and if you ask how many people have declared the assets, it will probably be less than 10%. Yet, these are people that we have to see as championing transparency. Could that be some of the perception against politicians and political parties?
Well, there are laws in this country which requires that certain category of persons should declare their assets. So I'll disagree with you if you suggest that any of the MPs or ministers haven't done so, because I don't have any such evidence. But beyond the declaration of assets, I have had reason to question even the effectiveness of this declaration as an anti-corruption measure. I don't see it as an anti-corruption measure, because here you are, you pick a form, declare your assets, seal it, the envelope, and then go and deposit it with the Auditor General, and it remains there. It is only when there is a case in court where the judge or somebody orders that they should bring the assets declaration form that it will be opened. So it may be there and nobody will see what is inside. So I don't see it as an effective anti-corruption measure. What I think ought to be considered as an anti-corruption measure is some amount of, if you like, state funding of political parties. When you mention state funding of political parties, everybody says, hey. But I think that if there is a way in which the state should provide some funding for political parties, then the state can hold people accountable for, whatever amounts they will spend in campaigning and so on. But you have a system where the state is not contributing, it's not funding political parties. So you have a funding system where if a political party is in power, it is perceived as a rich political party. The next moment it is out of power, it is perceived as a poor political party. So what is it that makes political parties rich when they are in power and poor when they are out of power? If it is the case that people want to contribute more to political parties when they are in power, maybe for the sake of expecting something from ruling government and so on.
Yeah,
how can't we put all these things in one kitty and say that, look, let us come up front and say that we are going to get money, we are establishing a democracy fund from which we will be funding the activities of political parties. If it is the case that it is contractors who donate to political parties, let us take those donations, irrespective of political party or which contractor is bringing, put it in that fund, and there must be a transparent means of allocating, so that once the allocation is done like that, no politician, or whether it's a minister, DC, or anybody, can sit somewhere and say that, oh, I am going to support my political party with this, or the party foot soldiers will not have any reason to go to a minister or a DC or somebody to request for funding for party activities, or funding for their personal a solution to their personal problem. So if we don't confront the problem frontally like that, it will be very, very difficult to rid the system with corruption. And how people get into elected positions, because now there is the impression that anybody who is going for elections and ask for people to vote for them, what are you giving us in return? Now, if society is demanding things from that person, and he goes to borrow and then pay members of society in return of the vote, what would he be doing with that power? He would have to make money from the power he's holding so that he can pay his debt. And so that was why, if you heard me well when I was talking, addressing our Women's Congress in WA, I was saying that if branch women organizers, when they have to vote to elect constituency women organizers, and they said that, well, during our campaign at the branches, we incur some expenses, so anybody who wants to be our constituency women's organizer must help us pay this, otherwise we won't vote for them. Well, if that is the case and they help you to pay, then the constituency women organizers will want to demand something from the regional women organizer candidates before they vote. Then at the regional level, the regional women organizers want to demand something from the candidates for national organizer position. Now, if national organizers are able to deliver and they are voted for, where are they going to take their repayment from? You see? So the solution is that people should not be expecting gifts in return for voting, and people should not try to induce other people to pay money, because we must be alive to our civic responsibilities, that if you are asked to vote, you are not doing the person you are voting for a favor. The society wants to know how you think, your opinion about who should be a leader. Simple and short. So if you express that opinion, you thank God that you have gotten the opportunity to express your rights to determine who governs you, and that it is not a favor you are doing to candidate A or candidate B. When we are able to get that type of civic education ingrained in our consciousness, this whole thing of I'm doing you a favor, so if you don't pay me back, you don't give me something, I will not vote for you, that thing will go. But it will not go by any shock treatment. We ought to be identifying where the shortcomings are. Is it about our civic education in schools? Is it about civic education generally in society? In the past, we were learning things like civics for self-government in elementary school, come to middle school and so on. Where are they now? Are we still learning them? If we are able to identify causes and identify solutions, we will be there.
Well, General, how can I come here and not talk about, come 20th January, you'll be putting yourself forward for re-election. Yeah. That's if I know there's a court injunction trying to stop it if you're able to negotiate your way out of it. But I don't see you that much, if I should say, trotting up and down the country, appealing for people to say, hey, I still want the position, therefore, vote me in. Now, is the court injunction coming on, or have you negotiated?
Well, to begin with, there is no court injunction. There's an application for injunction.
Application for injunction, okay.
And there are two such applications that we are dealing with. So the lawyers have taken over those, and they are trying to sort it out. We are laymen, so we don't know what to do with them. But the lawyers are working at those ones. And they all are questioning the decision of our vetting committee. So let's hope that the vetting committee should be able to come clean.
The justification of why they excluded
certain people.
Okay.
Now, yes, I'm putting myself up for re-election because I think that I still have a contribution to make towards the 2016 elections. And I also believe that Ghana will be better off if we got President Mahama re-elected. And so these are the reasons why I am putting myself up for re-election. But coming to why I'm not going crisscrossing the country and campaigning, somebody must be at headquarters to ensure that processes that will lead to Congress even happening comes on. And if you are a general secretary, your duties include the organization of Congress. So if you want the people who elected you to add more years to your tenure, the only justification you can put forward, the strongest justification you can put forward is that, look, I have discharged my responsibilities. So I don't see it as a prudent activity, leaving the planning and organization of Congress and be crisscrossing, you know, the whole country.
Is that fair or unfair, whereas your other members have the liberty to move up and down, talk to people, and then you're locked there? Do you use that as advantage, or do you think it's a disadvantage?
It is both. It is advantage and it's a disadvantage, because our constitution places the General Secretary the responsibility of calling Congress and organizing Congress squarely in the office of the General Secretary. So that is the responsibility, and those who elected me know that this is one of the responsibilities they are placing on me. And so if the organization of that event happens to coincide with the period that they will be expecting me to reach out to them, they would also look at my prioritization. I have chosen to see to a successful Congress instead of going around for campaigning. If I have enough time after we've kick-started the system running, I can dash to the regional capitals and also show myself to the grassroots that
I'm sure you don't need to. I'm sure if you needed to, you would have been out there. But you said something which I think I need to pick up with that. Come 2016, Ghana should be much better off under President Mahama. I'm sure you also allude to the fact that even though every president in Ghana has been tagged with corruption or perception of corruption one way or the other, within President Mahama's tenure, whether it's a fact or reality, it shouldn't be underestimated, because there is just so much news of things, money being misappropriated. And what are we doing, or what's your government doing to really, you know, tell us what the truth is, if it's whether it's a perception or if whether it's true? I mean, Isofoton, Suba, JIDA, NSS, this. I mean, you know, even though you can't say the president himself did it, it's just that under his reign, there's too many loose cannons.
I think what is happening is that we are becoming a victim or victims of our own success at fighting corruption. Because you can't fight corruption by covering up corrupt people. So we have undertaken, and indeed it is the dream, the vision of President Mahama, that you need to expose corruption first and know where it is. If you don't see the enemy, how do you fight it? So it is a conscious policy in our government to allow people to expose corruption. So during the phase of exposure, people will hear about those scandals and think that, well, because those scandals were exposed during your time, it means you are corrupt. Rather, if you look at it the other way, it means that because we abhor corruption, we are prepared to expose corruption wherever it exists and afford a society the opportunity to use the structures there are in the fight to eliminate corruption. So that is what we are doing. So the first phase of corruption, every government that wants to fight corruption is faced with that paradox. If you expose corruption, then you discourage people who want to go into corruption for fear of being exposed. That in itself is an anti-corruption measure. And then you also know the people who are engaged in that corrupt activity. You allow civil society, allow everybody, when they see corruption, to talk about corruption without intimidation, without anything. So we come to accept it as a social problem that needs to be tackled. That is what President Mahama is doing. And then when you use the institutions to fight corruption, then you'll be able to succeed in fighting corruption. You cannot hide corruption and pretend you are fighting corruption. So I don't think that the fact that there is so much noise about corruption in the country makes President Mahama's government corrupt. Otherwise, Transparency International will not rank us higher than we have ever reached in all our previous governments. It is telling us that we are doing the correct things in the fight against corruption. We cannot fight corruption. We have abandoned our...
We're going to end. So just before we end, you see, I think the frustration of the Ghanaians are that once the corruption is exposed, the hunger to see the closure is not quick enough. It may not be your fault, maybe because of how the judicial system works. I don't know how the president would do it, but the buck will stop at his desk. But the hunger to see closure to certain cases, people say, where is Wyome's money? Has he paid it? Where is Wyome's money? Has he paid it? You know, so the hunger to see closure is also not looking good for the president.
Well, but that is what we have. We have only democratic means of solving these problems. We cannot, on the one hand, pretend that we want democracy, and then on the other hand, we want revolutionary means of solving certain problems. The two cannot go together. So if we have opted for democracy, let us use democracy in addressing all the concerns, because even if somebody is indicted for corruption, he still has certain rights that must be respected. That is what democracy dictates. We have practiced revolution before, and I'm sure if we want to, we don't lack knowledge in the application of revolutionary means of, you know, recovering monies and so on. But these are not allowed in the democracy. So you can only go to court if the court rules that somebody is indebted to the state. There is time within which the person pays. If he doesn't pay, you don't go to kill him. You go and still use the court process to ensure that if he has property, the court allows you to do it. And there are means of recovering this thing which are democratic. And so if people are frustrated about the democratic means of recovery, it is because we have chosen democracy.
I told you I had to apologize. We're never ever going to have enough time to exhaust, but you know, every little is better than nothing. General, thank you very much, and good luck. Even though you don't need, I have a feeling they will vote you hands down. Thank you very much from the plush new office of the NDC. I'm saying goodbye to you, and tomorrow we'll be back to do it all over again.